everybody, what's going down? It's your girl J.Renae. You know, I've got something to say. Chilling with the one and only Meech Golden. You all, this is the Emmy-nominated producer. I'm talking about big names, big hits behind this man right here. Y'all give it up for Meech Golden.
Hey, what an introduction, man! I need you around me 24/7.
Hit me up. Just hit me up. Like in all seriousness, just hit me up, right? Female hustler.
Yeah, I see.
Go ahead and tell me about who you are, Meech Golden, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Meech Golden, obviously. Originally from Washington, D.C. Moved to New York in about 2010. I've been working in entertainment for probably the last 10 to 12 years, on and off. I do production. I do talent management. I do some consulting. I just could like to consider myself like an overall creator. I like to make dope shit, and that's what it boils down to.
At what point was it that you decided this was your career path? Was it anything you wanted to go to at first, but then you're just like, yeah, no, I can do this way much better than I'm doing this?
Yeah, no, actually, I moved to New York in 2010 from back home to get into artist management. And the crazy story how I even figured out that I wanted to do artist management was because I came home from college. I only did one semester of college at a small school, upstate New York called Alfred. And I came home and, I was working, making money, I'm feeling good, but I knew that I wanted more for my life. And so one day, a friend of mine recommended that on a sheet of paper, I write down on one side, everything I could wake up, seeing myself do every day. And on the other side, the things that I didn't. And there was only two things on the side that I could wake up and see myself doing. And that was identifying with good music and motivating people. And so before Google, I typed it into Ask Jeeves. I kind of aged myself, right? I typed it into Ask Jeeves, and all these articles about artist management came up. And I was like, I do love music. And I got some homies that's rapping right now. Like, let me see what I can do with them. And before you know it, I was off and running. I interned with this group back home called the Bassheads. Shout out to Basshead Ab, Basshead E. They were tremendous in my sort of start in the music industry. And they were representing an artist at the time named Fat Trail, who was one of the hottest in the city. So yeah, I did that. And I ultimately, I enjoyed it. I loved it, but I wanted more. And I was like, I'm moving to New York, and moved to New York. And, through my process here in New York, you kind of scratching and clawing, trying to figure it out. It's not as easy as, I don't think I ever thought it would be easy, but it's just not as easy as advertised, right? And so, I try to always be a good person and, build genuine connections and relationships with people. And one thing led to another. And a friend of mine, whom I worked with at a retail clothing store, introduced me to one of the employees at my previous company, and the rest was history. I got the job, and I was working at a company called Smack Entertainment for about 5 years, up until September of 2021, when I left and decided to start Good Gold Agency.
Now we're going to jump into it. You obviously have a long list of talents that you have put on, you know what I'm saying? Put on or help elevate their career to what we see now. And is it okay that you say who it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The one thing I do want to say to that, though, is that, for all of the people that I'm getting ready to name, those are all people that, whose teams I worked on and I helped elevate. None of them, I haven't quite taken the talent from complete obscurity to superstardom or whatever that pinnacle for their particular industry or career is yet. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing with Good Gold Agency. I think that for me, that is part of the reason why I left Smack to begin with, outside of just wanting to do more music projects. But, Smack is a really, really dope place. The company is owned and operated by Constance Schwartz-Marini and Michael Strahan. You all would know him from Good Morning America, obviously Hall of Fame, professional football. Yep. Yes, yep. You know it. Yep. Deion Sanders, as you can see the jersey behind me, I was his day-to-day for 4.5 years. The life lessons that I got from that man are uh, tenfold. I mean, I can go on, and he's so quick with the tongue, it's hilarious. I mean, you can't win with him, you can't win without him. You know what I'm saying? So it was great. It was a really great experience. I had opportunity to produce for Wiz Khalifa. We've produced with HBO Max. We've had shows on ABC, obviously, $100,000 Pyramid. That was a game show we produced. Apple Music, we produced Behind the Cam, which was Wiz Khalifa's docuseries based on his life leading up to Rolling Papers 2, which was his most recent album. At that time, anyway. He's put out a couple projects since then, but not albums. I think just EPs, if I'm not mistaken. Who else, man? I've had the opportunity to work with a Grammy-nominated artist, Bro James. My mentor, Keith, used to manage him, and I spent a lot of time with him early in the studio, early in my career, in the studio with them, and just helping them with different initiatives. Man, I've worked with the NFL. I've worked with Beyond Meat. I mean, the list goes on, man. I've definitely been very fortunate and blessed that I surrounded myself with people whom really cared about my growth and my development. And that has ultimately led me to want to give that back, right? And share those experiences with others. So very fortunate to be in this position, and my story ain't done yet. You know what I'm saying? We just getting started, if you ask me.
Oh, trust me, I know. I went through and working with athletes and artists and even people in general who are of that caliber, talk about the importance of being true to self throughout the entire chaos, because you're obviously surrounded by people, and even though they don't present themselves initially, you see them and you're trying to there I go saying you're trying to
you did it first, or you caught it first.
Like, you're trying to help navigate that talent or really that person into remaining true to themselves, because of course in this industry, you and I have both seen it, people can get lost, and I mean deep lost, and it's hard for them to regain themselves back.
For me, look, see, I just did it too. No, the biggest thing for me when creating Good Gold Agency was authenticity. And I know that's such a buzzword, it's so trendy, but I've never walked into a room and gave anybody anything other than me 1,000% of my entire life. And I can say that with 100% surety, because I'm in the room to begin with because of who I am. So I'm not going to change up anything about what you've grown to know me by to, I don't know what, further the chances that I get this opportunity. I don't personally think that would be effective. And so, I happen to work with people whom, obviously, the Michael Strahans of the world, the Deion Sanders of the world, these guys are on TV. And so there is a certain level of like, turn it on, right? And that is just turning up the charm. They're naturally charming men. They're naturally easy to engage with sorts of guys. And they're obviously, they're also interviewing people, wanting to learn about their stories, learn how they played in the game. For Michael, I mean, he talked about, I should say, topics that were really difficult to have. You talk about politics and racial tensions and, all sorts of things on Good Morning America. And so kind of watching how they went about their day-to-day was the things that I tried to pull from to, I guess, sort of apply to the way that I treated my talent when I had the opportunity to work with people on my own. So I'm very grateful for them for that. And I think that Constance, who was the CEO of SMAC, she did a really, really great job of allowing everybody to be themselves. I remember a certain circumstance where I was still an assistant at the time, I believe, and we were in a first look deal with another production company, and we were getting ready to go into the meeting, and she had asked me my thoughts about something that they had sent over prior to, and I shared it with her, and she was like, "Oh, I love that." And when we got in the room, We were all at the table, and like the time for that particular project or that particular subject came up, and she was like, "Oh, Meech just told me a great idea about that." Mind you, we're in the room with like all these like her peers, right? All these CEOs, excuse me, and production executives or whatever the case is, and I'm like, oh, and I just blurted out the idea or whatever the case is, and it was received really, really well. We ultimately ended up acting on it, and that was one of those moments where I was like, that's something that I will forever not only remember in terms of my relationship with her, but just in terms of the way that I want my employees to feel ultimately one day when I have employees. This is just me right now. I'm solo dolo. But when I do have, employees, I want them to know that their voice can always be heard. It always should be heard and always will be heard. So.
I like that. I would look when I'm in a room full of people who I know I could learn from, but at the same time, I know I could deliver upon an idea. I take that opportunity. Granted, now earlier in my career, I didn't. I'll be honest, I didn't. And
why do you think that was?
I was scared. It's one of those, okay, so when I used to work at this radio station, myself and my co-host Radio Rich, it was one of the I'm talking about top of line people with J Prince. It's J Prince that came. And I was like, wow, okay. I met him. We had a conversation. And then shout out to Larry Chatterbox Hale, because he was like, Jay, did you get an interview? No. Why didn't you get an interview? I don't know. What happened was get the interview. I was like, oh, you're right. Okay. And there's literally a picture of myself and him on my profile. And after that, it's just like people think I have an entire team for the Talk to Me podcast. It's only me.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to write emails the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn, don't give up. Just don't give up. I mean, the only thing someone can say to you is no. But you never know who you're talking to, which is why I always tell people, hey, just be nice to people.
And that was one of the things that she told us early on was in her path. And so speaking about Constance, was that, in her early days, at the league, she didn't have a voice. She was in the room. She was the one responsible for creating the entire proposal and everything that her boss was ultimately getting ready to say in that room. And, one time I think her boss had asked her to speak on something, and the other executives in the room were like, why would we listen to your assistant? And she remembered that feeling and wanted to make sure that nobody ever had to experience that ever again that she worked with. And I was so impressed by that and still impressed by that. And I definitely try to impose that on all of the people that I work with, moving forward. I'm a collaborative guy anyway. I prefer to bounce ideas off of people and to work in teams. I never feel like I'm the smartest person in the room. I never feel like I'm the smartest person on any specific subject. I just know that any room I'm in, I'm going to be additive to it. And that's the bottom line, because Meech Gold said so.
I looked I was viewing one of your recent interviews, and that's what you said. You were like, you're able to play the necessary roles if needed in order for your people to maintain that comfortability regarding a huge project. Yep. And I was like, wow, because that is such a rarity in this industry for people. A lot of times, artists, they put in their music regardless, but not just them, but people who are trying to make it in this cutthroat industry, they're like, oh man, it's just the give and take situation. In all sense, it is, but there's a good and bad to it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I am naturally a giver, and that's never going to change, right? Like, I know that, the role that I play on any given team can require me to have to get down and dirty, have to be the one to say no, have to be the one to manage my talent's expectations, right? Because that's also important, because, every piece of talent thinks that they are the hottest shit in the world. And the reality is sometimes you're just not. And I need to bring you back down to earth so you can understand this is where we're at, right? This is where we want to be, right? Until we get there, and even when we get there, you should probably be a little bit nicer to people on that rise up, and focus on the thing that you need to focus on so that we can get there, right? But yeah, you know, I just don't. I never want somebody to. I played sports in high school, and I was never the fastest, I'm never the biggest, never the strongest. But I just remember each one of my coaches. Coach Rick Houchins was the football coach. Coach Glenn Farello was the basketball coach. And if these men ever happen to see this, I just want to shout them out and let them know that I love them, because they both taught me like incredible life lessons that I didn't even know that they were teaching me. They were molding me as a person, and the man that I've become today. And they both would just, they would always talk about like hard work, and not hard work in the sense of like we know studying for a test is hard. We know like running hills after practice is hard. Like, right. We know that, you know, doing that weight, you know, trying to go up to, you know, 30, 40 pounds on your bench press max that's hard work, right? It was like doing the little things, right, was the hard work. When you were diving on the floor of a ball that you knew was going out of bounds, just for the opportunity to try to get an extra possession, right? And I was always willing to do those things, right? And it's because of those men. And I just taken that and I've applied it now to business, and I've applied it to my approach to talent management, my approach to content creation. You know, I will not be outworked, and if you want to try, then, you know, let's go. I mean, let's just go head to head, and may the best man win. But I can guarantee you, when it's all said and done, I'm still going to be standing there. And you know, it's not this game to me, unlike a lot of other people, it's not competition. I don't really look at anybody like competition. Everybody is entitled to work on the projects that they want to work on, and do the work that they desire to do for themselves. I just want to make dope shit. If you want to make dope shit too, feel free to reach out to me. Meech Golden on all social media platforms. I'm not hard to find.
Hey, you know, I'm reaching.
Yeah. We here, ain't we? You know.
Hey, I'm just excited to be here with you. I want to also get into about branding, because you heavily assist with that, and a lot of people nowadays, it's not really what you say, it's how you say it.
Absolutely.
The entire project of your branding. And we've seen it, you know, cancel culture. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who started that, because, you know, when we were coming up, it's just like, okay,
yep.
Either you're going to handle that, you're going to let it be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to get into it with the personal branding and how people, effective branding, if you will, effective branding in order to get the right contacts and the right networks.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess okay, so let's just break it down like real quick. What is personal branding, right? It's obviously like an intentional effort, right, to create some sort of influence on the public's perception about you or your brand or whatever, your service, whatever it is that you're providing, right? And so once you understand that, right, then I think the next important phase of that is like strategy. And you're taking a look at your client, or you're taking a look at this product, and you say, okay, who are we and what are we as a brand? That to me speaks to the authenticity, right? You have to know yourself first. If you don't know who you are, how will you ever know where you're going, right? The second part is probably the vision, right? The vision is more along the lines of like where you're going. What are your ultimate goals, right? What are the things that you need to do to get to those goals, right? And then that leads me into my third part, which is the commitment. Like, are you committed to doing the work that it's going to take to get to those goals, right? On New Year's, I gave a speech because one of my homeboys asked me to. We had masks on, don't worry, we was good. But I gave a speech, and one of the things I mentioned that I was going to be intentional about focusing on this year was discipline. I think everything that is a discipline requires discipline. And so, you know, after that, it's pretty much execution, right? You know, you figure out those things that, what are those differentiators between you and the other people in your field or that are doing things similar to what you're doing. And you know, is there a value attached to that? Once you figure out what that value attachment is, then I think you're golden. So
I'm glad we're talking about value and discipline, because I do know some people in this industry. Well, I mean, we both know people in this industry, but you know, on a newer scale, on a more so rookie scale, that
yeah.
when it comes to different brands, they want, you know, conformity to what they want instead of suiting who that person that they want signing with. You know what I'm saying? Like,
come on, man, talk about it. Talk
like,
about it.
it's like you have money, but at the same time, it's like, I want to be me.
Yep.
And so there are several brands. I ain't name it. Okay, we're just gonna use an example because I don't want to slip up and say nobody's name on here. Okay, don't cancel me.
Yep.
So that's as if I'm going to a company and I'm like, okay, well, you say that you have natural hair products. They're like, oh, well, we want you to perm your hair first. But here's $100 million, tax free.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No. And that's what a lot of them face in this world, really. Do I really want the money and need the money, or can I just be me and still get the money?
Yep. There's value in saying no, right? There's probably more value in saying no than saying yes. And I think that if you're going to put yourself in the public eye, be it being an ambassador or creating partnerships with brands, back to the first step of sort of personal branding and brand identity is authenticity. You have to know yourself, right? And in knowing yourself, you know how your tribe, your community, your fan base, whatever you want to call them, you know how they communicate with you. You know how they receive anything that you put out there. Do you really believe that you, as this natural-haired woman who has been natural hair her entire career, going and perming her hair is going to be something that your audience will respond well to? Now, if it's a personal decision to do such, that's a completely different conversation, right? But I also think that there's a way that you integrate or introduce this new, let's just call it, just say hairstyle, this new hairstyle, this new part of your brand to people. People change their looks up all the time, right? But you have to understand all of the things associated with the natural hair movement, right? So you're actually offending a lot of people by making this change without properly explaining to them why you're doing it. And your excuse can't be that, oh, it's my hair, it's my choice, because in all actuality, you've put yourself out there to be the representative of these other women, these other men who just have decided to wear their hair natural. And now, to some degree, you have an obligation to at least communicate with them that what they're doing, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, and that this is a choice that you made because you thought that it was beneficial for whatever you thought it was beneficial for. And that's okay. And they still may not accept that answer, but I think that there's a certain responsibility that is, due on the part of said talent in situations like that.
I want to jump into the production work that you've done for syndicated shows and even some films.
Yeah.
Have you experienced like a mental block or a creator's block? And if so, what did you do to come out of it? Because like my minor is theater, okay, and my major in undergrad was media studies. So we created so many films, and it's just sometimes, I know personally for me, it's that one wild hair that we say in Texas that you're trying to get it, and it's just, it becomes like a headache, and it's just throbbing. Have you gone through that, and how did you come out of that?
To be honest, I haven't had much writer's block or creator's block in my experience. Typically, I do one of two things. Again, like I told you earlier, I'm huge on collaboration. I'll just call somebody up and just bounce ideas off of them until I land on something that I love. And start moving forward on there. And then 9 times out of 10, I'm like, hey, you want to work on this together? You know what I mean? And, you know, you move forward like that. Or to be honest with you, I could just put on like Lil Wayne, 05, or I say 03 to like 07, 08. And
that's
like,
a lighter flick.
yeah. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I just go, that level of creativity, like the way he was dropping bars is just out of this world. Like, you know, so I can put that on and literally get into my zone, right? It just takes me to that happy place. I try to find those happy places in lots of in pretty much everything I do, you know what I mean? But specifically when it pertains to writers and creators block, I just try to connect with other people. I don't put all the pressure on myself to be the one to figure it out. Because I don't think that that's my responsibility. You know what I mean? I think that, you know, I was tasked with completing whatever this project or production is, and whether that's, you know, because I used to be in a production team when I first moved to New York, so I was producing, making beats, and then fast forward, you know, I actually became a TV and film producer. You know, I produced documentaries, game shows. I had no experience whatsoever in production when I got promoted. I got promoted from brand partnerships and endorsements to the production team, and I had no clue what I was doing at all. And my colleague, I'm so thankful for him. His name's Ethan Lewis. He just actually became head of non-scripted for Higher Ground, which is the Obama's production company, which is major, you know, and that's his idol. Yeah. Shout out my boy E. You know, one of the first things he had me do was write down on a sheet of paper just 10 ideas of things that I wasn't seeing on TV that I wanted to see, you know, and that sort of exercise really kind of helped me embrace my own inner creativity as it pertained to production, because I just didn't think that like my ideas were quality prior to that. And mind you, this was the first day on the job, but like I'm going into it already discouraged, thinking like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not going to be good at this, like, you know, and, you know, you fast forward 2.5 years later and I'm Emmy nominated, and, you know, I'm, you know, working with Oscar winning filmmakers, you know, or from all around the world. It's just been incredible.
Talk to me about that feeling. About like, what was that like when they said, "Yo, Meech, it's Emmy nominated"? Or I don't. Okay, look, New York people don't.
Yeah, no. We get hype. We get first of all, I'm from DC, right? So we below the Mason-Dixon line. So technically, I got a little I'm kind of the South. They think I'm country here. They think I have an accent here. So I know it ain't quite like the deep South, like where y'all from. But you know, we on the same playing field. But to that point, you know, it was super exciting. It was super exciting. It'd have been better to win it, but it was a labor of love because we had spent the entire pandemic really executing the post-production of the show. So all of the show was shot between, I would say, August and probably December-ish of 2019, right? March 2020, we was in the heart of the pandemic. Mind you, now I'm sitting at home in this very spot and I'm calling up over 180 some odd kids and their parents, local restaurants and places to get appearance releases, right? Because that hadn't been done during the initial, you know, production process, you know, something that small. You know, I'm having to build relationships with people through phone calls and Zooms. And, you know, some of those people, I still speak to them to this day. They still call me, they check in, they want to see how I'm doing. They congratulate me, they follow me on Instagram. It's crazy. And so, you know, that project in particular, it was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, because there was a lot of tension with the George Floyd protests that were going on after his murder. And, you know, in telling the story of The Cost of Winning, which is the name of the show, it's on HBO Max if anybody wants to check it out. In telling that story, though, we were telling the story of these young Black men, ultimately the next generation of men, right? And, you know, struggling during that time to find my sort of voice within the movement that was going on at the time, I found peace in knowing that I was a part of helping these young brothers tell their story. And so that is something that I'll remember forever. And the Emmy nomination is honestly just kind of like a consolation prize for that labor of love. So, yeah.
I mean, when I tell you I would have put that on my driver's license, like, no. Sorry, officer, you're not talking to me. I'm vaccinated.
Yeah, no. So, but you know what? There's also a different feeling too. Like with everything that you do in this entertainment industry, especially on the corporate level, right? There's so much hierarchy, right? And so I know how much of a contribution I made to that project, and everybody, my entire team knows, you know. But sometimes internally, I think we still feel like, not necessarily I could have did more, right? But I think they like chase titles and they chase these accolades. And like, for me, I'm just not really on that. Like, I know the weight that being able to say I'm Emmy nominated carries, because it gets you in certain rooms. It allows you to have certain conversations, which ultimately can lead to better projects, better work, or work period. But for me, it's really about the work. It's doing the work and not worrying about the results. I really just want to make dope shit. Like, I just want to be a part of making things that make people go, that was cool as hell. Like, wow. Like, you know, being a part of like authentic storytelling, you know? Yeah, that's what I do it for. And shout out to anybody who does it for the money or does it for the accolades. I mean, to me, those things are just a byproduct of doing really dope stuff, you know? But I'm not actively chasing any of that. Like, that really doesn't concern me at all. Now, would I love to have a Grammy sitting right behind me and an Oscar on this side and an Emmy? Absolutely. Like, I'd be lying. But if I said I didn't, but am I active? If you ask me, am I actively seeking those things out? Just not.
Okay, first, do I have clearance to say these names? Do certain names, like?
Oh, you can say anybody's name.
Okay. I want to talk about how you being a very intricate part in this industry with different brands and Def Jam, and I'm sure you've seen the glories and also, you know, the not so glorified aspects of it. What do you make of them? Like, what do you make of them to now?
In an effort to not bash anybody, bash any brand or anything like that, the one thing that I would say that I think is one of the unfortunate parts of brand culture, or, you know, or corporate workplace culture in some of these places and within some of these brands, is not really speaking to like the authentic Black experience, minority experience for that matter. It sometimes feels like some of the efforts made by these companies are literally in place to check off a box to make sure that like no one can say anything to them. Or if someone does say something to them, they can just point to the little sheet of paper where that box is checked off, right? And that's the unfortunate part. That's probably one of the darkest sides to me. I think the other part of it is like the educational aspect. Like, people that work at these record labels and people, some of the people at certain brands and things of that nature. Like, I didn't go to college, and I didn't need college to do what I'm doing, right? And I have friends, peers, colleagues that have spent an upwards of $100,000 for their college education to not use any of the skills that they learned there, right? And, you know, as it pertains to the kind of corporate world and within these brands, I think a lot of times people get caught up trying to climb that corporate ladder and get that title and get that that recognition, and it affects their relationships along the way, because, you know, the higher up you get, from what I've seen, the higher up you get, the smaller your circles become, and that's not on purpose. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason for that, and I just live in a bubble where I believe that we can all live and coexist, and I think that we're all needed. And I don't think anybody needs to struggle for me to do good. And I don't think that I need to do bad for someone else to do good. So those are probably the two biggest things. I think that there's just a lot of misinformation out there about how to break into these things. I think a lot of people tell you, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And in reality, there's no manual or handbook to talent management. You know, I wake up every day and it's a new adventure with each and every single one of my clients. You know, I have to look at where we at in terms of our strategy, in terms of our goals, as opposed compared to where we were yesterday. What do we need to do different to continue down this path and make sure that we stay, you know, on the right trajectory? And so, yeah, man, those will probably be the thing I say: misinformation, the educational component, and finally, what was the first thing I said? I guess like chasing that corporate ladder, you know,
Yeah.
like just not a good look.
The higher you get, the smaller.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, to some degree, right? Your circle should get smaller, right? In that way, because if people ain't on the same type of time that you're on, I ain't got no time for you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't, like, I'm doing this, you know. But at what cost, right? And that cost is what's important to me, right? You know, I'd much rather, you know, make average money and be known as a great person through and throughout the industry and always have people want to find ways to work with me, than to make a shit ton of money and there's a stain on my name in terms of, you know, working with me. You know, I'm difficult, you know, and trust me, amongst brands and agencies and management companies, they talk about, you know, what experiences were like working with certain talent. So for those talent out there, when you out here and you don't think you burning bridges because you think you hot shit, like, know that, you know, you might lose out on a $1 million, $2 million deal because of your attitude alone. Like you get removed from consideration before it even gets brought to your team because of the way you treat people or things of that nature. So yeah, you know, I think that, you know, that I just think that diversity was the first thing I was talking. Yeah. So yeah, I think that if companies focus on diversity, education, and you know, sort of like removing that misinformation, things will be much better for the next crop of kids coming up with dreams of making it big in this wild industry.
Let's get into the Good Gold Agency. I know a lot of people, I know listeners, y'all been waiting on this question.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it, man. Good Gold Agency. Ironically, how Good Gold even came about is a good homie of mine. Probably consider him like a big brother. His name's Niles Goodwin. I'm Meech Golden, and we represent an artist named Virus West, based out of, originally from Chicago, but currently based in LA. And you know, him and I wanted to, you know, create an entity so that we could represent him. And, you know, one day we were sitting on the phone like, well, what should we call this thing? And I was like, your last name is Goodwin. My last name is Golden. And I was like, what about Good Gold? And literally the crazy thing about it is that when both of our names, our last names anyway, are 2 syllables. And we both only had to remove 3 letters from the ends of our name for what became the actual monarch, Good and Gold, Goodwin, Golden. So we just started saying that's Good Gold. Like, that was our thing. We branded it, got a little LLC and everything like that for the management company, and that was that. And so When I put my notice in at Smack, you know, I wanted to work on more music projects, and I wanted to like really go hard with, you know, giving this music thing the proper shot. Because when I did it early on in my New York experience, I didn't have some of the tools, I didn't have some of the resources, or even the knowledge that I have now to be able to accomplish the things that I want to do within the industry. Which we talked about earlier is I got to break somebody, right? I like that is like you know that is my dream, is to literally break somebody, take them from nothing, figuratively, to something. And so you know, when I put my notice in a Smack, I remember I put some feelers out there, and wasn't getting no hits back, and I was like, all right, well, fuck y'all, I'm gonna do this myself. And this was like literally 3 days before my last day, and so I was like, all right, well, I need to think of a name. And I was like, you know, being on the scene, so to speak, for a while, I had already branded a couple of different things, and I was like, I need to be very intentional about it this time. I need to make sure that whatever it is, that it's going to be with me forever. Like there will never come a time where this thing doesn't exist. And I was like, Good Gold, really? I really like that. And so I hit my boy up. I was like, yo, you cool if I use Good Gold to start my new agency? I was like, obviously it's separate from the management company. I mean, you know, from our management of him, but like, are you cool if I used it? He's like, bro, absolutely. Like, go for it. Like, that shit is perfect for you. And Good Gold Agency, we rocking out. Right now, to date, we have about 6 clients, soon to be 7. And AEW professional wrestler Bryan Danielson. I work with a cybersecurity and safety social media influencer and TV personality named Kathy Pedreas, former NFL linebacker, now college football and soon to be NFL broadcasting analyst Cam Lynch. I have a photographer that I work with named Clifton Prescott, obviously Byrus West. One of my favorite people in the entire world is Farrah Fox, and I got brought back on to do day-to-day management for her, and she just signed a deal over with this record company called Gwen. So super excited about that, and actually I'm working with her manager is this young lady named Jasmine, who I worked with at Smack. Jasmine and I worked at Smack, and I introduced them to at the height of the pandemic, because Jasmine used to be with a bigger management company and ultimately ended up leaving to start her own thing. So I introduced her and Farrah, and
right back around.
Yeah. And like you know, like real ones, you know, I want to say something else, but like real ones, they reached back, you know, they reached back out to me and was like, hey, we would love for you to come on board. And, you know, I've had a great relationship with Farrah over the years. She's probably one of my longest standing New York friends. She happens to be from VA. So that was just an easy tap in and tie in. Super excited about that. Work with a digital artist named Rick 808. He's super talented, does a lot in the gaming space with his brand Super Fun Gaming Club. And yeah, man, that's just the talent management side. I ain't even getting to content creation, production side. Got a few projects that I'm brewing, cooking up on that side. Unfortunately, I'm on NDA, so I can't talk too exclusively about them. Okay, yeah, but what I will say is, one of the benefits of being in this position is that I can serve as a development producer, meaning, just creating the format, mostly in the non-scripted space, or, finding an article or something about, finding a story rather, from an article to build a doc around and produce from that perspective. I can also do in-field work. I could also do consulting where I'm like, hey, this production company should work with this production company. And so I've been doing a little bit of all of that right now, and super excited about that. And that's also the fun part about Good Gold Agency, because our third pillar, which is consulting, it allows me the ability to not be tied down to any specific people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have my clients that I do talent management for, and they all know about each other, and they know, like, there's no animosity or any sort of like prioritizing of like time. Like I treat all of them super equally. And, you know, I try to make sure that they also realize I too have goals, and there are things that I want to accomplish. And those things, some of those things will be able to happen through them, and some of those things will not be able to happen through them. And so when they're not able to happen through them, you know, I go out and I make it happen. And oh, how could I have forgotten my sweet Nzinga Prescott? She is a former Olympic fencer, and her and I just started working together. Yeah, she's a former Olympic fencer, and now is a CEO of a nonprofit organization that she created called Peace, which basically teaches young kids in the inner city of Brooklyn how to fence. She's so smart, so kind. She's a rock star. She's really going to be a thought leader in multiple spaces, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to build with her and see where life takes her, and you know, to go along on that ride with her. And yeah, I know that was a lot.
Oh no, I'm listening. My thing is, I love when people are so comfortable and talk to me. I'm your cousin, okay?
Yeah. That's how I feel right now. Like I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't 350, I might pour up some yak right now. But you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it light.
It's fine. Somebody from Texas, you know. Look, my mom from Texas, my dad from Louisiana, so I
yeah,
without a lever.
100. No, absolutely.
When consulting potential clients or potential talent, is there a questionnaire they have to go through, or what is the process that they go to in order to convince you to bring them on?
So all of the clients that I'm working with right now are all recommended to me. They were all referred. So while I have a questionnaire once in my onboarding process, I guess the thing that I look for most in talent is A, if I can be additive to what they're doing, and B, do I believe that they believe in what they want to do? You know, so it's not really. I hate to say that it's not really about them. You know what I mean? It's more about like me understanding what they want to do and whether or not I believe that this is something that I can help you achieve. You know, because I'd like to think that most of the people that get brought my way are already working towards a goal, right? They're already working towards whatever this thing is that they want to do. And in coming to get management, right? You're on the music side of things, you're probably looking for money. But outside of that, you're probably looking for like guidance and some level of strategy to keep you par for the course, right? So, excuse me, I'm sorry. I got the hiccup so bad. Yeah, you know, so with that being said, I lost my train of thought, of course.
No, it's okay. You keep them focused as to who they are and their authenticity, like you stated before, as well as the discipline and what all they entail, as well as getting a viewpoint from their side. What do they see?
Oh, absolutely. I mean that, and you kind of hinted at it earlier, and we didn't get a chance to kind of elaborate on it, but I'm glad you brought it back up, because I think that the biggest mistake that people make as they approach talent management is like, you have to listen to your clients. You got to know what they want. Like you have to know what wakes them up in the morning. Like Constance always told me, she was like, they can lie to their mother, they can lie to their spouse, they cannot lie to me. If you lie to me, I can't protect you. And, you know, if you lie to me, I can't help you reach the place that you want to go, because you're not being honest with me about wanting to do the work that's required to get there. And so, you know, that is huge for me, is, you know, I don't ever want to partner a client that doesn't drink soda with PepsiCo. Why would I do that? Like, it's never going to work. This is not fooling anybody. If anything, it's hurting their personal brand because it's harder for them to get excited about the work that they're doing, you know, regardless of what that check looks like. And specifically with my client right now, Bryan Danielson, you know, he's really, really heavy into the environmentalism and sustainability space. And that's not an area that I really activated in before. And it's been a bit of a challenge in learning that space in an authentic way to be able to bring him opportunities that I feel like he'll be excited about and that he'd want to, you know, lend his voice to, you know, and I'm grateful for experiences like this because it teaches you just how different you need to tailor each client's sort of strategy too. So, yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's looking to go in the same career path and someone who's looking to be a brand?
Oh, what advice would I give? Be a sponge. Soak up as much information as you can. Never stop learning, never stop growing. Again, here I come back to this word, but be authentic. You know, I don't code switch. I don't walk into a room and speak differently because of the people that I'm around. I know that I tend to use slang and say and ands, and those are obviously things that I'm working on just in my overall speech. But it's part of who I am. And you're in that room, you have that opportunity because you earned it. Know that you belong there. That's your, you know, there's value in that. And just believe in yourself. Like the word believe is probably one of the most underrated or underappreciated words in the English dictionary. Like you have to believe without a shadow of a doubt that you are worthy of the opportunity, that you deserve the opportunity and be willing to put in the work to get, you know, the most out of that opportunity. So
I feel that. I mean, that is like the one quote when I really feel something, I'm not scared to be like, hey, yo, I feel that right there, like right there. And I tell a lot of people that and this, some people may find it's really cocky, but it's a meaning to it. I'm going to get everything I want, but I also want the smoke that comes with it, because
the smoke is important.
Yeah.
That's the journey. That's the fun part. Like when you get, so if you become the top podcaster in the entire world, right? The only moment that's going to feel great, like the highest possible peak that you could possibly have emotionally, is the moment the person says it to you. After that, it's like, okay, what's next, right? And you spent however many years you've been doing this, working toward this thing, and it's just in a blip. It's just like, it's just gone. So why not take the time to enjoy the fact that, like, the way you got the Jay Prince interview, right? The fact that you're going to get who you want to interview next, like who's on your wish list.
Oh well, okay, so
don't throw a name out there.
Okay, so I'm actually going to interview Big Boogie coming up. Boogie? Yeah, Big Boogie. You know the guy who created the dance craze. Everybody was like doing like this and all that. That's dope. And I got to interview Jay Stone, Nipsey Hussle's best friend. You know, unfortunately, I got the interview prior to Nipsey Hussle's passing, and it just so that happened. And then on top of that, the Grammys happened, and literally that next week they flew into Houston to get an interview because, like I said, I used to be a part of this radio station, was solely by us college kids. And Sorry, I'm not about to cry, y'all. Allergies, okay? And another person, I got to meet 2 of the Jacksons.
Oh, fire.
Yeah, I know. And they smell so good. I know that's kind of creepy. I was just like, oh my gosh. And, Jackie and Tito, I was like, oh my goodness, it's y'all. And they're like, come here, get a hug. I was like, oh my God. So, yeah. And it's just, I think for me to interview Janet Jackson, I would probably be like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's gonna happen. And it's gonna happen.
Baby. So I grew up on everybody's music. Like literally everybody. I went through that whole phase. Remember on MTV when they only played pop music in the morning, you gotta wake up early. I went through all that. Hot Topic, what's up? Don't go anymore. Like I said, girl got allergies, may wind up sneeze on something. So all that and people think I've been doing this for a while. I haven't even been doing this for a year yet.
Yep.
I did this starting in October, but being a journalist and having artists constantly send in music, well, I can't, write about everybody's music.
Yeah.
But the ones that stick out to me, of course, I do.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Elliot Guidry, CEO of Houston Trend Magazine, because he has definitely helped me, especially with the podcast. He was like, Jay, do it.
Yep.
Just do it. I was like, but what? I don't have this. I don't have that. He said, just do it. Yep. You have personality. You have the questions. Just do it. I was like, I guess so.
Yep. And you're doing it. And to summate the point I was trying to make earlier, it's like, enjoy this process. Enjoy all the little people that you get to meet along the way, because as you grow and as they grow, you're going to be able to look back on this when you finally reach that peak, when you reach that moment, and be like, damn, it was worth it because of all of the stuff that I had to go through to get there. So, yeah.
And this is my last question. It may be deep or it may not be deep,
Yeah, let's go there.
Going to your younger self.
Yeah.
After what you've been through growing up, once again, I don't know how life was to you growing up. I know we all have our ups and downs of life at a young age. What advice would you tell your younger self, or what would you tell your younger self that you may not have seen, now? Did you see yourself being at this point growing up?
It didn't look like this. No, it didn't look like this. My younger self, I probably, there's a quote that a good friend of mine, when I lived in Brooklyn, my very first apartment, we had this like long hallway, right? When you first come in the door, and we used to have everybody that came through, because we had a little studio set up and everything. Everybody that came through sign their name on the wall or whatever the case is. Say, you can leave a quote or whatever. A friend of mine left a quote. His name's Matt Buzz. Shout out Matt. He said, if you think you're wrong, whether you think you're wrong or you're right, you're right. And that just has stuck with me throughout all these years, because, everything in life comes down to decision making and the confidence in the decisions that we make. And so, yeah, I would just say to my younger self, whether you think you're wrong or you're right, you're right.
Oh, I like that. If I could get tattoos, I would get that. Sensitive skin, like legit sensitive skin.
I'm about to say, why you can't get tattoos?
So, okay, you're talking to somebody. By the time I was 6 years old, I already had my quarter sleeve planned out. I'm like the only cousin that doesn't have tattoos. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I told my dermatologist, I was like, so you joking, right? Like, can I get a butterfly? Can I get a balloon? She was like,
you won't hold it?
No, I have keloid skin.
Oh, so, yeah, you don't want to, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't even have, well, my ear used to be pierced up, and then, that happened. I had fun with my piercings.
Yeah.
But man.
Okay, now, okay, look, this is a PG-13 podcast. Okay, let me tell you.
Oh, no, in my ears.
I'm just teasing.
I want to thank you so much for coming and talk with me. And, you know, a lot of people ask, why do you call it talk with me? Because it's a Texas thing. You know, thank you for coming talk with me. You know, I can't like just say it like that. But, you know, those older people growing up with an older crowd, you know, every time you go visit Grandma Neil, cousin Bookie and Neil, they would be like, thank you for coming talk with me now. Be like, all right, Grandma, but let me get a cookie first.
Yeah.
Real quick. Love you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me, man. This has been dope. Really solid. I appreciate your time. And yeah, man, this has been great. We gotta do it again.
Oh, most definitely. Look, we gonna end this and then we gonna talk further. No, but everybody, I was Meech Golden. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you on all platforms really quickly again.
Absolutely. So you can find me at Meech Golden. That's MEechGolden on all social media platforms. And you can keep up with the latest and greatest for the Good Gold Agency at www.goodgoldagency.com.
All right, y'all. That was the Talk to Me podcast, and I will catch y'all next week. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hey, everybody. What's going on? It's your girl, J.Renae. You know I've got something to say. Bringing you new episodes and new guests on your Talk to Me podcast exclusively on YouTube. Like, share, and, of course, subscribe. And follow us on IG, too. All right, y'all. Bye.